Hello, Data.World and D4D. I'm Nick Colley from D4D, and with us we've got John from Data.World. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be having a series of tutorial talks from different companies that are working with D4D, and this is a chance to get an understanding of how these tools work and a potential way to use them. So joining us, we have John. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for having us, and thank you for having us as part of the D4D community. For those of you that don't know, I am the Chief Product Officer at Data.World. I'm one of the co-founders here, and you know, a very frequent lurker on various D4D channels.
Aren't we all lurkers at some point on these channels?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's great what the community is doing. Some of the best examples of how to use Data.World are driven by the Data for Democracy community, and it's really been illustrative and educational for us to see such a distributed and diverse group of folks working on these really important problems and getting real work done on our platform. I mean, it's exactly what we always envisioned Data.World to be used for. And we're really excited that a lot of the best uses of Data.World are being driven by Data for Democracy. But that said, you know, there's obviously a lot of things that the platform does, and I think the point of today was to go through some of those things and answer any questions that folks might have about Data.World.
Excellent, and we've been looking forward to this. Your company has been so gracious in offering a lot of the services and helping the community out. With, for example, Boston Crash Modeling Project. You were working very closely with the city of Boston to get their data uploaded so that the D4D people can easily download that data and use it and start creating models to help try to predict crashes in real time. So it's been very valuable partnership with us.
Well,
we're very appreciative of it.
One of the best things about this, and even the way that D4D has sort of embraced using Data.World has been, hey, look, we're a young company, right? And as a young company, we need to have these communities grow up with us. And the fact that, we're able to jump in and help, and then also have you guys help us develop our platform, we take that very seriously. It's a huge honor for us. And we take all of the use that you guys give us and all the feedback very seriously. So, it couldn't have come at a better time for our company. And so we want to show, the Data for Democracy community all the love we possibly can.
Again, much appreciated. So I'll hand you the reins and we'll let you cut loose.
Great. I'm going to start screen sharing, and please let me know if you're actually seeing my screen.
It is coming through.
All right, great. So what everybody should be seeing now is a split screen between an RStudio session and Data.World. I've opened a bunch of tabs here, and we'll walk through this relatively quickly. I think a lot of Data for Democracy users are going to be relatively familiar with Data.World, and hopefully we can touch on some of the more advanced features, but then also maybe some of the best practices too for using Data.World. First, just really a quick introduction. What you're looking at right now is my logged in homepage for Data.World. And down the middle of the screen, you're seeing really what we consider the nerve center for Data.World. And in a lot of our outreach and a lot of our marketing, you see us referred to as the social network for data people. And I think we offer a lot of great tools and a lot of great collaborative tools, but a lot of that tagline that you get out there is driven off of this homepage. And what's really special about Data.World is our ability to bring people and data projects together in one place so that you can discover new new projects to work on. You can discover new people to collaborate with. Along the way that, Data for Democracy has brought so many great people together, we want our platform to be able to do that as well. So what you see down that middle stack is really, like I said, the nerve center of Data.World. It's our activity stream. And our activity stream is unique in that we can take all the data that you're working on, all the projects that you're a collaborator on, all the people that you follow, who your colleagues are, plus the structure of the data that you're already working with, the things that you're interested in, the tags that you have, and produce a stream of very interesting things, whether it's a data set that you're a collaborator on, like your own far right project here. And you can see here, oh, look, it's already actually, the activity stream's already updated. Far right getting liked was the top thing by John Mark Campbell, was the top thing on my activity stream. And now you'll see that we featured a new data set. A new data set is hit trending. One of our favorite users, J. Albert Bowden, uses us to post a lot of data, and you can see that in his data set trending. And we really intend the activity stream to be a great indicator of everything that's going on in the platform. Obviously, we also recommend folks to follow. We have tags you might be interested in based on data that's getting posted to the platform, recent discussions that are happening on various data sets, and of course, a link off to your profile and all the data sets that you're working on. And with our profiles, we really intend for these to really be a great calling card for everything that you work on in the Data.World community and on our platform, right? So here you're showing a lot of my private data sets. You can actually see that we use the Data.World platform ourselves internally, and we use it to post to our investor community information for our investors so they can collaborate, ask questions about kind of the health of Data.World. And we trust our own platform enough to use it to post this data to our own internal investor community, right? We really like to put our money where our mouths are here. The default sort for your profile is by the most recently updated, but you can also sort by created. Oh man, it's really interesting to see some of my old demo data sets like Fortune 100 board members. This may have actually been the first data set I ever created in Data.World. And you can really see, oh, this was the first data set ever created by our lead investor. So long ago now. Anyway, walk down memory lane notwithstanding, you can really get an idea and an impression using these profiles what people work on. This is one of our more active members. I'm not sure if Chris is a member of D4D or not. He's a student at Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, and you'll actually hear a little bit of my Canadian accent come out every now and again, probably when I say about or out or something like that. I try to hide it every once in a while, but it exists still. But you can really get a picture looking at Chris's data set, and I don't see any of his private data sets because I don't have access to them. But you can really get an idea of some of the things that Chris is into just by looking at that, looking at some of the things that he's commenting on, et cetera, et cetera.
So one of the things you commented on, John, is that like you guys believe in your platform so much that you post data for your investors. So I'm assuming the security for this for the Data.World platform is pretty high. Can you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. Really, we follow every best practice that we possibly can when it comes to a cloud-based data service. We do security scans. We follow all the best practices. We are hosted in AWS, and we follow all of the best practices with respect to locking down that environment. making sure that our production environment and every user account is appropriately sandboxed from any of our testing or staging environments. All of those things that you would expect a world-class software as a service cloud data storage facility to provide, we do all of that. If you're comfortable putting your data in something like Box or Dropbox, you should be comfortable putting your data in Data.World. We also provide a lot of auditability so that, should the worst ever occur, and I think this is a really important point, right? Like, to make an assumption that anything is perfectly secure is a bad assumption in the world of security. And so we also provide just a ton of auditability. So should that worst case scenario ever happen to anybody, we're going to be able to audit that and make sure that we can be really transparent about what happened and be really, give people the ability to get back to a good state very, very quickly. And that really is our philosophy when it comes to security, is we follow every best practice. Everything is very well locked down, and to provide incredible auditability so that if something were to happen, you get back to a state and assess what happened in a very fast way with full support from our staff here.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we put some of our most sensitive information in Data.World, and we put our money where our mouths are, and that's really important to us. So anyway, kind of keeping going, I think the important thing about where we were at, and anybody else should feel free to jump in with questions as well. Your Data.World profile to be your sort of online data personality calling card. What are you working on? What are you into? What are the things that you're an expert on, right? We want the Data.World activity stream to be your kind of, data nerve center where we can show you data that might relate to the things that you're interested in, data that might have interesting joinability or correlations to the data that you have. And a lot of the way that we've built the platform, and we'll get into how when you upload data into Data.World, we actually convert any structured data into a graph database. The reason why we do that is to provide linkability, and I'll demonstrate a little bit of that as we get into the demo. One thing that I want to kind of use to structure some of this is the Intro to Data.World dataset, and a lot of you have probably been exposed to this Intro to Data.World through the notification tab. Mine's empty right now because I dismissed the notification, but every new user to Data.World gets a notification that they should check out this Intro to Data.World dataset. And this is a dataset where, you can download the full dataset, or you can download it as a tabular data package. But if you dive into the summary here, you actually get a walkthrough as a dataset of a lot of the base capabilities of Data.World. The first thing you should notice here is how rich our summaries can be. And in the summary for the intro here, you'll see that, we've embedded a video, right? We've embedded code and links. We've embedded an actual live visualization. So I can click on the Explorer and I actually get the visualization that I embedded. We actually allow for the editing of these summaries as Markdown. And any contributor with write access to a data set can edit these summaries. And again, all of it is versioned as well. But what's really cool here is we do things. Let me see if I can locate the appropriate code here, where I've included some links, and then here you'll notice that in this Markdown, I've actually included Markdown to that chart, and that's what actually generates that live chart using our exploratory visualizations, which are actually built on Jonathan Morgan's new knowledge visualization. So, full disclosure, Jonathan and us kind of go way back here. And we use the new knowledge platform to do all our exploratory visualizations in Data.World. Incredible product and from a really great guy, obviously. But moreover, what you can do as you're building your summary or building any kind of documentation from Markdown and Data.World is you can click on any of these if you're the editor, and you can copy a URL to this file, which you can then paste into which you can paste into your Markdown, right? So when you do that copy URL, and if I click on the full screen visualization, I can do a direct link into my Markdown here. If I actually go and I look, I'm going to follow my own example here. And I click on this and I do an exploration, and I actually do a count of records by number of right versus left-handed players, right? I can do this copy embed here, right? And that's what gives me the Markdown code. And any place you see that copy embed, you'll get Markdown that you can paste in our summaries, which is a really, really cool feature to build out much more rich summaries. Another thing that you'll see here, and a couple of things that we just added to Data.World, you'll notice that you have the ability to add descriptions to files. You'll also notice that you have the ability to filter a data set by the label that they have. And as when I click add description here, I can actually add new labels and a per file description as well. I can also drop into a collapsed list mode here, which can make navigating data sets a lot easier. One thing that you guys kind of might be asking as you look at this data set, you'll notice that I've got like a PNG of some analysis added. We've got like rich markdown for embeddable charts. You'll notice some data sets have PDFs uploaded. You'll notice that you can upload pretty much anything into a Data.World data set, and then add these labels here. And you may even ask yourself, like, we also support R, Python, JavaScript, Python notebook previewing. All these things are supported, and you're like, why would I ever put all of these things in one data set? And the reason we do that, the reason we support all that, is what we envision Data.World to be is a repository for a data project, for a data set that contains everything that you need to get context for that data. So if you did some analysis on that data, you can re-upload it to Data.World and see all of the cool things that previously had been done. If you required a little bit of R to do a little bit of cleanup on the data set, upload that into the data set. It all adds context. It's all stuff that can be discussed, right? And that's also why we have the discussion tab, where a lot of people, will ask questions about data sets, right? They'll ask, like, what were you thinking about? Could you write a query that does this, that, or the other thing? And people will respond in these, and this all becomes a permanent record of everything that's been done to the data, everything that you might want to do with the data, and all the different transformations that may have occurred on the data over time. One thing that is also important to note, when you re-upload files to Data.World, if they have the same file name, they'll replace the previous file, but we also keep a record and version all of that data as well. And that's something that the versioning we don't expose yet, but we are keeping all that history, and we're going to expose data set versioning soon to our end users once we figure out the best way to do that. And that's something we're really excited about getting out there soon. Other really interesting things when you're looking at a data set. We also, on upload, I mentioned that every data set gets backed by its own graph database. And so if you do upload something that's structured, whether it's JSON, CSV, Excel, various XML formats, particularly RDF, Turtle, things like that, things that are semantic, they're based on semantic web stuff. It all gets loaded into a graph database behind the scenes. Loading it into a graph database behind the scenes allows us to do these interesting things like generate these column previews where we can tell you distinct and non-empty values. When you do add a description, that gets added to the property graph for this data, so that's all queryable, right? There's some more interesting things in here. For example, the points per game here. We actually give sample values. We give mean, median, max. If the data set is big enough, we'll give you a distribution, and I'm sure some of you have seen that. And all of this allows you, when you're finding and stumbling into new data, to determine, you know, is this something that I'm interested in? Is this something that I want to explore further, right? In our full screen preview, where we can actually also give you quick exploratory charts and graphs, we also give you these like column drop downs where we also give you a lot of that additional information, but give you additional meta information about the file as well, like the size of the file, the labels again, anything that you might need to get context on that structured data. There are some data sets in Data for Democracy that have really kind of gone above and beyond and kind of have really leveraged a lot of the features of Data.World, and the drug spending data set is absolutely one of them. This shows off a lot of these features in really great ways. Again, you can see who the contributors are. You can see that there are active discussions going on, and that's even with as awesome as the Slack teams are for Data for Democracy. If there's something permanent that you want somebody to know about the data set, you should move some of that into the discussions on Data.World. But you see here some of the cool preview functionality where, you know, we're actually given distributions, et cetera, et cetera. Here you can see you can upload a feather file. We don't actually read in feather files yet, so this doesn't get the neat preview. But it's still, that feather file is still distributed along with the data set. One of the really cool things here about us loading it into a graph database is you can build and publish queries along with the data sets as well. So here's something that Matt did where he wrote a sample query that actually in the drug spending project, where he's actually comparing the 100 most preferred brand name versus generic drugs in 2011. You can also, out of this, you know, click the export button and get, you know, some sample R code or some sample Python pandas code that you can copy and paste directly into a Python or R environment to start working on this data. You can also, if you go into your advanced settings, you know, get your API token, which you can then copy. And you can't see my whole API token here, so I don't mind, which you can then copy into other environments. You can set up a Data.World local environment for yourself as well and start working against that. I'm going to demo that in a minute here. I think another Data for Democracy data set that has used this really, really well is the Election Transparency Working Group. They've done some really great things, and this is a data set that's gotten so big we actually show it in collapsed mode by default, which is kind of which should become interesting. If the data is too big for us to load the previews in, which these guys have done a lot of, and they've generated a ton of really interesting data, we actually collapse that by default, and we actually show you. And when we do this, you can actually click in. You can still get the really great full screen previews, all that information. We just don't show it on directly on the dataset page. And so the inline previews on this dataset, because it's gotten so big, have actually been collapsed down. We don't do the inline previews for this one versus the drug spending where we oops. There's a dash in there, and you can see our fabulous 404 page. So that kind of gives you an overview of all the kind of important things that are kind of simple about Data.World. And we've got some new kind of cool advanced features that I wanted to show off that I think might be particularly interesting to you guys. First off, we have released R and Python SDKs. And we currently don't have those in Arcan or in PyPy, but we do have instructions on how to install these SDKs from GitHub. And the R SDK in particular has become very full-featured. And some members of the community have already built Shiny apps from these, which have been really awesome. And frankly, I've shown off when we went and did our big press tour for our recent funding announcement. It was great to be able to show off some of the wonderful things that you guys are doing. So really, thank you for that. Over here, we have, that's the Python SDK. We've also recently introduced some really cool syncing ability. And over here, I'm going to kind of show off some of these advanced features by going through a demo here of this. One of the really cool features that we have here is the ability to live sync data between anything that posts data as a URL in Data.World. One cool, interesting data set that I've seen out there is the Washington Post police shootings data set. And if you dig into this a little bit, they actually have posted their data set they use in a lot of their analysis as CSV here. If I go into this and I view the raw file, I actually get a URL. And I can copy this here. And now imagine I wanted to work on this in Data.World. What I might want to do, maybe I want to start a project, maybe I want to dig into this a little bit more. I'm going to start my own, sample police data set. Okay, I'm going to make this one private because maybe I'm not ready to share it to the community yet. But I'm going to start by adding that Washington Post police data set to this. And if I add this and I hit save, and then I hit the create data set, I can also just drag and drop and add files from a URL here on the main data set. Kind of go through the process of converting it into graph data and uploading it, and you see I get this great preview like I always said, but what you'll see if you're a contributor to this data set here is, in addition to the normal metadata, I also have this handy little fetch latest button which allows me to mirror the most recent data into this data set automatically. You can also set up GitHub hooks to do this so that whenever you post to GitHub, it automatically mirrors into Data.World as well. Now imagine I have, maybe I have this theory that maybe weather impacts police shootings. I don't know. But maybe what I want to do is find some data that actually corresponds to this. So maybe I want to start looking at this data and I see, oh, hey, look, I've got city and state information here, and I very quickly see some sample values. So looks like city and state are separate fields. I'm using 2 character codes for state, and city is mixed case, right? So maybe I want to look for other things that I can correlate to this. So one thing that I can do is I can do a column search. And here, if I do a column search, I'm now showing all data sets and then highlighting the files that have a column named city in them, which is really cool to do. But this doesn't really help me because like I'm thinking about the thesis I have, which is, does weather impact police shootings? Which I know is I'm making a trivial example of something that is totally not trivial. But maybe that is something that I want to look at, right? So I can do that, and I can find temp ranges in cities, right? And that could be very interesting to join to my data as well, right? But maybe I'm interested in good weather, right? And so I can find, I can continue to narrow that down. And here, Gary Hoover, who's sort of we're based in Austin, and Gary is a real institution in the data world, not only in Austin, he's an institution in the Austin entrepreneurial world, but he is an institution in the data world as well, and he posts a ton of useful data. But here he's got a data set where he's got, sunshine by city. And if I take a look at this, and here I see, oh, geez, this would be interesting to join against, but city in this data set has a very different shape than city in back here in my own data set. So if I come back to my data set that I just made, see here, sample police, city does look pretty different in this one. So how would I go about joining things? And this is a great time to start using our SDK. So first thing I'm going to do is get a connection to our SDK. Now, DataWorld. So now I've got a connection in, right? The first thing to do is I've got to do some feature engineering, so I need to be able to join those files. Now, to prevent any kind of live coding error, I've built some sample here. And what I'm going to do here is I think one of the easiest things for me to do is to add a city-state column to the Washington Post data. So in RStudio, which and R in general makes it really easy to manipulate a lot of kind of matrix-like data, I'm going to paste this in here. Because I was practicing before, I'm going to change the name of this to sample police. And here, so let's see here. Oops, let's see here, sample police from. I think what I got back here is an error. So I did. So I got a 400 error here. Let me actually. The best way to do this, and one of the handy things here, is if I just go into the query tool and I just do a select star from, I can actually copy this sort of thing now. And save query. Great, so I've got that query. So now if I want to pull that down into my environment, I'll just paste that. Oops, see? I will paste that here. And bang, I've actually got, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so folks can see. I've actually got a data frame here. Now that I've got that data frame, I wanted to add a city-state column. So I'm going to jump back over to my lovely copy-paste code here. And I'm going to add a city-state column. And there you have it. And now in my data frame, I should have city state. So now I've created a column that I could join against that Gary Hoover data set that you saw previously. And now I'm going to show you probably the coolest bit that we have. We have a really cool convenience function in our SDKs that allows you to take data frames from R and Python. And we will take this data frame here. Go back to our studio, copy that command. So we have this handy upload data frame. And just to, kind of step back here a second, convenience function. So I haven't written out a file. I haven't done anything. I'm just going to execute that. Oops, uploaded it to the wrong data set. So, and there you go, file uploaded. Now I'm just going to do a quick refresh on this page here. And you'll notice that I now have a new file that has city state in here. So I was able to take a data frame that I was working on in RStudio and automatically push it without having to write out a file or anything like that locally to my environment and push that right back up into Data.World. And now I have this engineered column here, which, I could go and I could add a description on. So feature engineered column combining city, comma, state. Two character states. Now I could write out this R file and also upload it to the data set, but what I really want to do now is I want to be able to join it with my other data, right? So I already showed off how to use our new schema browser when I was writing queries to kind of copy paste things in. But one of the coolest things that we can do in Data.World, and I'll show this off here, do a little copy paste coding again. But I can do federated queries. So jumping back into our studio here, into the Data.World query environment, you'll see here that I've got, I've selected my new file and my new table that I created in it. This allows me to dereference the user and data set from the user that I want to get. So we're trying to compare police shootings with the percentage of sunshine that a city gets. And I actually was able to very conveniently build this string by, I'm going to go to Gary's data set again. And if I go into the query tool, a very convenient way of doing that is I can just click on the column. Now that's copying that to my dashboard, and I could come back to my query editor here, and I can just paste it in, and then I can just do a simple, dereference it by username dot data set. I have to use the backticks because SQL doesn't like dashes. But here I would do sunshine by city, which you can see that I've already done above. Now if I run this query, oh, hey, look at that. And I apparently need some more backticks for myself, I think. Oh, there we go. Just a simple syntax error. I should be careful. And there you have it. All right. after I fixed my simple syntax error, which the query tool was actually telling me that I had, and boom, you have not only all of the data, but you also have the percentage, and of course I backed myself here, but luckily it saved all of that for me automatically. You also have the percentage of sunshine in that city from Gary Hoover's dataset. Now, I could do a very simple export again, get that back into R, start doing regression analysis against that, and you're off to the races. What I really probably want to do here is actually rename this query, call it, sheetings joined with sunshine percentage by month in city. So we're going to save that. I can get a URL to this query. I can export these results. But most importantly, I can publish this query. Now, anybody else that I invite to this data set can now use this query when they come back. And you'll see that it's now in the published query list. So you can see how you can kind of tie together all the cool things we do in Data.World in terms of like all the cool social features, but also tie Data.World into your actual workflow. We're really, really excited about this. We're really excited about the new SDKs and all the capability that it adds. And that kind of gets me to the end of the demo here. I'm gonna jump back out. I'm gonna stop screen sharing. I hope you guys have gotten a fair bit from this, but I'd like to turn it over to you guys now for any questions that you might have. And I apologize for the pain of having to go through a little bit of live coding there, but I think you can see how easy it is to go end to end in some of this. I'm going to share my screen one more time because I do need to show one more thing off, and that is, here it is. That is our docs.data.world portal, where we have recently, and this is like as recent as Friday, posted videos that you can watch on how to do advanced search, the basics of our query interface, and the basics of our SDK. A lot of things that I kind of went through quickly here, you can go back and watch quick videos on as well at docs.data.world, and then also get complete API documentation, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right, now I really am going to stop screen sharing and let you guys ask questions.
So that was really cool because you were taking it from multiple data sources and you created your own unique data source, and you were able to explore into that. What things about the SQL interface do most first-timers struggle with?
So that's a great question, Nick. Probably, honestly, in our environment, I think, if you are familiar with SQL, probably the most confusing thing is figuring out how to dereference the file to table to data set to user, that whole kind of dereferencing structure, because that's something that's very unique to Data.World, how we kind of create that namespace. Our version of SQL is a dialect of SQL because everything is backed by normalized RDF and loaded into a graph database. Our native query language is actually a language called Sparkle, and so we only support a subset of SQL. It's a very, very large subset of SQL. It's a very powerful subset. We call it DW SQL, and that's all documented at docs.data.world as well. But I do think that that first getting started thing that we saw people getting hung up on was figuring out how to dereference tables and table names from files. Because I think it's really powerful what you can do with Data.World, where you can basically drag and drop a CSV or a JSON or an Excel file in and immediately start to write SQL against it and even get API endpoints for it. But you do know how to actually reference the table names. The one thing that really helps with that is that new schema viewer on the right-hand side of the query editor, where you can click and copy and actually get the fully dereferenced table name that you can copy and paste into your query, and that makes it a lot easier.
Excellent. You mentioned that DW is based on a graph database. Mm-hmm. Do users need to have an understanding of how to operate a graph database or anything like that to use your platform?
No, and that was the big impetus for us writing DW SQL, was to open Data.World up and writing queries in Data.World up to a much broader audience, right? I think the most important thing for folks to know is this idea that you can take raw structured data, some clean, some dirty, and obviously will work better if it's cleaner data, and you can drop it into Data.World and immediately start querying it, right? You don't have to know that it's a property graph backing the whole thing. We are fans of the semantic web. We want to support Tim Berners-Lee's vision for linked data and what the next phase of the web should be, right? We started the web by linking documents. Sir TBL believes that you should link data as well. And if you link data, you're going to be able to find all these new and amazing discoveries. And great. He's got some great TED Talks on that if you're really interested in diving in there. But a lot of the semantic web and a lot of graph databases are hard to wrap your head around if you're coming from a relational model. And for a lot of researchers and subject matter experts, that's hard to approach. And so we wanted to make the concepts of linked data a lot more approachable. And that's why we created this idea of like, drag a CSV into Data.World, write some annotations on it, immediately get to query it. But what you should also know is we back everything with RDF, with Sparkle endpoints. So if you are familiar with that world, if you're familiar with projects like DBpedia and Wikidata, which you should totally look up because it's pretty awesome stuff. Like DBpedia is an open source project where a community is converting all of Wikipedia into linked data. You can actually federate queries from Data.World out to DBpedia. And it's like super insane, super intense. And it's mind-blowing, like really mind-blowing. And someday we should do a demo of that. This is like, with only a few minutes left of the Hangout, can't really jump into that. But our CTO, Brian Jacob, is like, who's really the mastermind behind a lot of this. He can blow your mind with some of the things that you can do federating queries out to this world of linked data that not a lot of people really understand exists.
That's awesome. Any questions from the community?
All right, I feel like we're having our Bueller moment here, but it's
extremely informative. Thank you. I'm just having to run some examples and get my hands dirty to learn this. As a beginner, I'm super excited to integrate this into my workflow.
That is awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Sam. This is great, and it's great to see you guys. And I know we're recording this, so I lurk in a lot of the channels in Data for Democracy. So I'm at John, I think _data.world, JON. So happy to answer questions offline in the Slack team as well. And I think at this point, our company is, we're about 30-ish people big. And at least half, if not all, of the company is in Data for Democracy. So somebody will jump to your aid if you have questions.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other comments, questions, or profound statements, thank you very much, John. Oh, great. I'll pester you if I have any big questions. I can't find out otherwise.
That's great. Thank you, everybody.
So thank you, John. And thank you for DW for creating an awesome product.
Oh, yeah, we love it. And we'll hopefully see you guys at the Data for Democracy Hackathon at the end of the month.
Yes, excellent. And if the community has any questions about that, feel free to hit me up. I'm Nick Colley. It's literally at Nick Colley, NICCOLLEY, for any hackathon questions. There's also a hackathon channel, hackathon-mar 2017. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to post in there. It's coming up in just a few weeks. It's kind of crazy how fast time is traveling on this. So until then, everybody, be good.
Great. Bye-bye.